Break the Ice podcast is presented by Superfood. Superfood Performance Nutrition has made a name for itself by feeding athletic organizations like the Washington Capitals both on and off the ice. If you have a high-performance team that needs fueling, check out mysuperfd.com for more information. Hey everyone, Mike Vogel here for WashingtonCaps.com. Welcome to another edition of Break the Ice. And this is Alumni Weekend here in Washington, and we're joined by Ken Klee, Caps' 9th round pick back in 1990. Kenny, how you been? It's been a long time. I think you were in your second season when I started here, and that was a fun team, fun group of guys there that I came on board with. You guys all treated me quite well, but how you been, and what's it like to come back and see some of your old buddies here?
Good, yeah. No, life is good. I got 3 boys all playing, and they've had good little careers for themselves already and are working their ways up. So we're still heavily involved in hockey. I've coached. I got to coach the women's national team. I got to coach a little bit for the Lightning, the Crunch up in Syracuse, and now I think I've transitioned into pretty much a full-time coach, and I love it. I love coaching kids or pros or men or women. I just obviously the game's done so much for me. It's awesome, but yeah, like you said, the comeback here is really exciting. This place didn't. I was laughing when we pulled up. I was like, "This doesn't look like Piney Orchard. It's not Piney Orchard." So it's a little bit of a different feel. And then actually just walking over here, I saw like the pictures of Dale Hunter and Callie Johansson and all the guys that I played with. Like, it's pretty awesome to see their pictures there, as well as the guys who were here this weekend, the Nick Kiprioses and Kelly Millers and guys like obviously Ole. We had a beer with him last night, which is always great to catch up. So him and I kind of broke in very similar. So it's great memories, definitely for both Robin and myself.
Well, you had a really fascinating career, I think, and we'll get into it here. You started in Bowling Green there, and Jack Button apparently saw something in you after that freshman year. And when you look at the season that you had that year, it's kind of nondescript, didn't jump off the page or anything, but that year, 1990, a couple of really good late round picks from Jack Button, Peter Bondra, and yourself, and Peter over 1,000 games in the league, and you're just bubbling under that, over 900. How did you find out, even? Because I'm guessing in those days the draft was more of an understated affair than it was now. Do you remember? Were you expecting to get drafted, and how did you find out?
Yeah, well, I mean, like you said, I think my freshman year was pretty nondescript. I had a guy in front of me who was a pretty good player in Rob Blake. So he ate 30 minutes a night, and he was just awesome in college to watch. Obviously, he's an unbelievable player, Hall of Fame NHLer as well. But it was one of those things where my coach Jerry York, at the time, obviously he's a legendary coach, and he was like, you know what, you might get drafted this summer, we'll see. And I was kind of like, okay, well, we'll see how it goes. I wasn't really thinking about it, and the draft day came and went, and I didn't get a phone call, so I'm like, oh, I guess it didn't happen. And then actually, I think it was the day after, I was talking to some friends from Toronto where I played junior hockey, and they're like, oh, congrats on being drafted. And I was like, no, I didn't get drafted. Nobody called. And they're like, no, you got drafted. It was in the paper. I was like, oh, well, sure enough, the next day Jack Button called and said, hey, Jack Button, Washington Capitals, hey, we drafted you in 9th round. Keep working hard, stay in school, we'll be in touch. And then, that was basically it. A couple days later, I think I got a hat and a T-shirt. So I was like, oh, I guess it was a real deal. But it's just one of those things where, I had no idea. I was coming from Kansas City to go play in Toronto to play junior. Then I was fortunate enough to be on a great team, got a scholarship to come back to Bowling Green the next year. Things were just happening really fast for me, and I was way over my skis, I would say, and not really with expectation or anything on how it would go, other than when I did, sit and watch Rob Blake play, and then he signed at the end of the year. I was like, wow, he's going to be an NHLer, and he's going to be a good one for a while. So, it kind of gave me, I guess, a glimpse that, maybe if I worked hard, I could, not be Rob Blake, but but have some kind of career. I didn't know if that meant American League or NHL or what it meant at the time, but it was definitely just kind of an eye opener. Like I said, for me to go from Kansas City to Toronto to Bowling Green, like in that consecutive order, and then things fell into place. I always tell people, my parents allowing me to go to Toronto St. Mike's and calling them saying, hey, can I come try out? The luckiest thing I did over my career to really help, I guess, boost my game, boost my, my name out there. Obviously I improved a ton, but, it was just a fortunate thing. And I'm sure they had a laugh when they said a kid from Kansas City wants to fly to Toronto to try out for our team. And they knew they were going to have a good team. They didn't know how good, but we had Eric Lindros came on that team. I think we had 9 kids get scholarships by Christmas, and I was fortunate enough to be one of them. I wasn't in the first few, but I still ended up getting it. So it was pretty much just a whirlwind.
Yeah, that's a legendary program there at St. Mike's with the buzzers and all.
Yeah.
And good launching spot too. But I feel like when you were here, like, you were known as one of the strongest guys in the league. There had to have been a point where you began working on your body and your strength, and that, I think, had to have had a big impact on you getting to the NHL and staying there.
Yeah, no question. I mean, I basically, in Kansas City, I went to a Jesuit school named Rockhurst, which is a big football school. So I trained like a football player, 3-4 days a week. I was lifting, benching, squatting, deadlifting, starting freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, and then I left before my senior year. But I think that gave me a good, solid base with my strength. And then I realized, okay, I don't have the niftiest hands. I'm not the fastest guy, so I better work on certain things that are going to allow me to compete with men. And, when I got to college, I saw Rob Blakes, Mark Puffins, Kevin Dahl had a good, NHL career. I saw how strong they were, and I was like, okay, that's an area where I can really spend extra hours, in the gym, getting bigger, getting stronger, taking care of myself. Even having, I'm drawing a blank on her name, our nutritionist here, like when she was asking
Pat
me,
Man, maybe?
I think it was Pat. Yeah. She asked me like, well, how much water are you drinking? All this. And coming from college again, I had like, what do you mean drink water? I didn't know you needed to drink water. Like, I had a Mountain Dew and beer regimen depending on when we were playing. And, but yeah, no, it was just, you just learn quickly about how to take care of yourself. And like you said, there was no doubt that my strength helped me, get into the league and then kind of hang on and stay in the league. You have to have something, you have to do a lot of things really well, and you have to do something great. And, I think to really get yourself into an NHL situation, and fortunate enough, I was, my strength was definitely up there for me.
And like you said, you ducked out of Bowling Green after your junior year. Was that the Caps coming to you and saying, hey, we want you? And
yeah, I had actually made the Olympic team that year, and then blew my knee out. Over in France in like a pre-Olympic tournament.
Albertville?
I hit a little Finnish guy. He hit the wall, bounced off, caved my knee right in, and I got carried off the ice, and I didn't, within an hour I had no pain, so I was like, all right, I'm going back. And they were like, no, you tore all the ligaments of your knee. You have nothing left. You're going to have surgery and you're out. So I did, and I rehabbed and got stronger, and then luckily enough, Team USA allowed me to go to the World Championships at the end of that year after I had rehab for 9 months or whatever, and I kind of showed there that okay, I was back, I could play, and then Jack called me and said, okay, listen, we want you to get an agent, we'd like to sign you. My coach at Bowling Green there, Jerry, was like, you don't need to go right now. They just had 4 guys with 20-goal seasons, which I don't think has ever been done again. With Hatchie, Coco, Cali. It was Ali Frady. It was unbelievable the guys they had there. So
they were stacked.
Oh my goodness, yeah. So my coach at college, of course, was like, just stay, you wait. And I was like, you know what? I need to understand the pro game. I need to play an 80-game schedule. I need to see if I can hold up. At the time, my first year, just icing my knee every day, and first year after knee surgery, plus the grind of playing in the American League and everything that goes with that. But it was a huge 3 and 3s all the time. By the last night, I could hardly go up and down stairs. I was taking what I had to take to be able to play, and but it was the right move for me. It was time to step up and try the pro game. Kind of it is a different thing when you're playing junior hockey or college hockey. When you go to pro hockey, it's a different mindset. It's a different level of commitment. It's a different schedule. It's, guys who can figure it out and take care of themselves have a chance to move on. Guys who can't, get out of their own way, kind of, it's a struggle.
So you started out in Baltimore playing for Barry Trotz.
Yes,
and
then Paul Gardner, yeah.
And then year 2, you're in Portland, same affiliation. You guys win the Calder Cup.
Yeah.
Looking back now, because over the years here, the Caps have had the good fortune of having a lot of their affiliates win, and to me, there's so much value in that development wise. How do you feel looking back with the benefit of hindsight? How much did those high leverage that playoff run? I think it was 93, 94. How much was that a launching pad for your NHL career?
No, I think it was huge. Not only for myself, but for Ole and
a lot of guys.
Yeah, a lot of guys. I mean, we just had the first year in Baltimore, we had a really young team, and we probably had, I want to say 13, 14 first-year players kind of thing, and we were young. We had a few older guys, but they were kind of at the tail of their career and not really – the setup in Baltimore was just kind of weird. We practiced where the Caps practiced, so the older guys were still talking to their buddies across the hallway, and they knew where they wanted to be, and I don't fault them for that. But then when we went to Portland, Tom Ebright did an unbelievable job with Trotzy of bringing in the right veteran guys. The Brian Currens and Kevin Kaminsky and Kerry Clark and guys that were kind of free agent, like hard AHL players to kind of teach us to, okay, this is what you have to do to win in this league. And then, like you said, I think it helped me a lot with my mentality, with my commitment. Instead of just being a young kid just trying to survive, they really helped us. Those older guys, I can't, Kent Holst, Chris Jensen. Yeah, I mean, like those guys were instrumental to help me and a bunch of other young guys, and senior Todd Nelson actually was on that squad with us. So I mean, it was just that different group kind of taught us how to be pros, taught us how to win, taught us how to, the grind of hockey, and it definitely was super impactful. I know, moving forward, obviously, like you said, the Caps have had a good job, a great deal with Hershey now, and obviously them winning last year is huge. It definitely helps to have that, learn how to win, and when guys come up, they know the expectation is that to win. And I coached in Syracuse for Tampa Bay, and again, like my mandate there was, as a coach, was, okay, you need to develop players. You don't need to worry about winning. You need to develop. But us winning kind of helped the Eric Chernaks and Anthony Cirellis and Matt Josephs and those guys that I had in Syracuse kind of move up. And then when they were winning cups in Tampa, I was like, they were important players for them.
And when you did finally ascend, and not finally, you got here pretty quick, actually, second year pro or third year pro. I think you were in Washington, made the team coming out of the lockout there. So I think you played half season in Portland and then started here, and then a little bit up and down in 94, 95. But by 95, 96, you were regular in the NHL, but also you were a guy who was drafted in the 9th round, and they had first round picks who were, like Brendan Witt, who were, getting those. That pedigree is always going to get you more looks.
Sure.
And that defense was stacked with veteran guys to the point where both you and Jimmy Johnson were playing wing a lot of nights. They'd dress 8 defensemen. Yep. And you two guys would be playing on the wing on the 4th line, which I got to think, though, there was some value in that, just in it's sort of like a cop understanding how a burglar's mind works. You're playing defense, now you're playing wing. That had to make you a better defenseman eventually, I would think.
Yeah, I think it did. It definitely taught me a different side of the game. And, when you give a bad first pass, I try to pride myself on having a good first pass, but if you give a bad pass and the winger doesn't get it out, everyone looks at the winger, but the winger knows and the D knows. I quickly knew then, okay, if you don't get a good first pass, it's tough to break out. I mean, you look at even games today, watching last night, and guys make good tape-to-tape passes. Yeah. They come out easy. When they don't, then it's tougher. So it definitely taught me a lot. I mean, it was kind of, I kept that survival mentality for almost all of my career, that, I would do what I had to do. And that's, there's so many, like you said, there's every year there's a new group of first, second round picks that are coming up, plus the ones from the years previous that are trying to fight for a job too. So I needed to survive. So when I had coaches come say, hey, can you play on the wing for me? I'd be like, absolutely, whatever you need me to do. And I just want to stay in the league and make myself valuable. And and just kind of to keep it going as long as I could.
One of the craziest things about your career to me was that you look at the guys who coached you. It's Barry Trotz, Jim Schoenfeld, Ron Wilson, Butch Cassidy,
Yep. And Pat Quinn,
Pat
Joel Quenneville.
Essentially all defensemen until you got to Phoenix.
Yeah.
And then you get Wayne Gretzky.
Exactly.
So what was it like as a defenseman? Do you find that defensemen who are coaches are a little bit harder on the D-corps?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say
And
harder.
was that a good
I'd say
thing
a little
or a bad
smarter,
thing?
maybe, but not. I always say I had a long career because of good goaltending, and we were just a little smarter than a lot of forwards. But no, but I don't know. That's interesting. Like you look at how many guys, like you said, were defensemen, and I think guys kind of go one way or the other with that. They either want players to play like they played, or want players to play the way they wish they could have played. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
sure.
and they were all a little bit different. Like. I think in Ron's case, he loved the offensive guys. I mean, Gonchi, he was obviously a phenomenal player, and I got to play with him. But if he would have said, would you rather be someone more like, Gonch or more like Kenny, it would be, it'd be more like Gonch. You know what I mean? Because I think that's the kind of player he was. Whereas Pat Quinn was more of a defensive guy, but he was a very smart man. And he, like when I first got to Toronto, he was like, listen, I need you to make plays with the puck. You're going to have turnovers, and I can, you need to minimize those, but I need you to make plays. We have a super skilled team, and he kind of knew the personnel we had. And I think for me as a coach now, that's what I try to mimic. I try to mimic Pat Quinn or Joel Quenneville saying, okay, here's the team we have. Every year it's a little different, but I need to coach to help those players be the best they can be. And for me to get, played with Shoney, he was like, hey, if you have a turnover, you're on the bench, kid. And, it was a terrifying every day coming to the rink. And I love Shoney. I think he's a phenomenal person. But as a coach, he terrified me, and I was,
Well, you were really young then,
he's like,
too.
off the glass and out, or you're on the bench. I was like, okay, so. But, and then you have Pat Quinn saying, hey, I need you to make plays here. Like, Matt Sundin needs a puck, or Owen Nolan, or Darcy Tucker, or whoever, Alex McGillney. Like, he can't chase down the puck for you. You need to get it to him on his tape flat so he has room. So, but yeah, no, that is an interesting point. I didn't really think about that, how many of the guys I actually played for were D. But
Randy Carlisle, too, briefly in Anaheim.
Yep.
And a good group, tight, varied. They had, different. Who would you say? I mean, you mentioned Quinn and Quenneville. Do you think those two guys were the ones? Are those the one? Like when you're talking to players now, any echoes in your head from? Would it be those two guys or other guys?
They're definitely up there.
Yeah.
I got to be a mature young man or person. I had kids when I played for those guys, so I knew in talking to my own kids how when you would say something, how they got affected by it. Whereas some of the other coaches, I didn't have a family yet or didn't have my own kids. So, when they would say stuff, it was just interpreted differently, I guess, by me. So, yeah, I mean, when I look at how I like to coach now, and, whether it's men, women, boys, kids, pros, I definitely look at a Pat Quinn or the way he treated everyone, or a Joel Quenneville, or, there are definitely a couple of my favorites that I got to play for, which was pretty awesome. But still, at the end of the day, like we laugh, like we were talking earlier, like, I mean, your favorite coaches are the coaches that play you, and you know what I mean, because that's how you make your career. And both those guys, I had good minutes and good ice time, and not that I didn't for the other guys, but it just, it definitely, they were good. They were really good to me.
What was it like being here for that transition from Landover to downtown, and then eventually, and you weren't here for that, moving from Piney to here?
Yeah, it was something special. I think it was, to go from the Abe Poland group to Ted and his group. To me, that was, it was just
a night and day.
It was a night and day, breath of fresh air. Obviously, the Polans were great people. They did a lot for the community and everything. I just don't think they were really hockey people. And, Ted was into it. Like, he brought, now his son is, I think, in charge of Minor Sports. I mean, it's awesome. Like, I remember him as a kid coming in. Him bringing his kid to the rink made me excited. Kind of like the feeling when, Adam Oates was here, and he didn't have kids, and I had young boys, and I'd bring them to the rink, and when they weren't around, he'd be like, well, where are your kids? I'd be like, well, they're at school, or they're this or that. He's like, well, I want to see them. And I was like, what do you mean you want to see them? And he was like, they give me energy. Like, to see young kids being here, being excited, being able to say, hey, that's Jaromir Jagr, that's Ole Kolzig, there's Kalle Johansson, like all the players, which Otzi would grill them on. It gave him energy, gave him motivation and excitement to keep playing the game that obviously is a game, and it's something we all love. So, it was a different time to go to Ted and his group, and I was going to say Mr. Leidecke was part of that group too originally, and when I was coaching the women's team, now he's with the Islanders, and so to see him, and he's like, I remember your boys the redheads being in the room and all that. So it was definitely exciting. And then to go from, like you said, the old Cap Center in Landover to go downtown, brand new arena, what a different feel. This place wasn't even thought of. I think they were talking about it when I left in 03, but it was just a special time, I think, to have that, energy and enthusiasm. And then obviously Ted brought in, I told someone last night, I went down to an interview with Al just outside the locker room, which my stall and Biller's were right inside the door. And I remember one day Michael Jordan walked in, you know what I mean? I was like, I remember this hallway because Michael Jordan and his little entourage, big men and his giant suit coats came walking in. So it was pretty awesome to see that.
And you mentioned, obviously, you have three sons. They've all played. A couple of them play pro. I think one's still in school. I'm guessing you coached them up as they were growing up. And you mentioned women's, coaching, and obviously a couple of years in Syracuse. It's a wide variety of coaching. Was it something that you always wanted to get into? And what are your thoughts on, like, going forward? Would coaching in the women's professional league intrigue you or interest you?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I first retired, my priority was spending more time with my kids and trying to get, obviously they're in school all day, so how do I spend time with them? Well, I'll assistant coach both their teams, for the older two back then. And then the next year I was the head coach for both their teams. And then I had my youngest, Bugs, is coming up as a U8. He's 4, playing. So between the three of them, we're at the rink every night, all the time. Then when they started moving on, like you said, 2 of them have played college. One is still playing college, and the other one is actually in USHL right now. He's going to be at North Dakota next year. But, just kind of that transition where I went from doing something to really spend time with my own kids to, hey, I'm having a big impact on a lot of kids here, not just my own kids. And I think that really helped me, give me purpose, give me, another passion for something. And, because I know how hard it is, like with, trying to make it, like, as a, being a pro hockey player is never my goal for my kids. My oldest just played in the Coast last year for a few months, and then he got bounced out. But he made the decision, hey, Dad, I think I'm ready to move on to other things. And I said, hey, that's great. That's your choice. He had an unbelievable career. Played 3 years of junior, 4 years of college. But for me, it was just finding that passion and helping other kids. Now I know that, like I run into kids in the summer because my kids are still training and doing their thing. We see kids that I coached, that maybe only played through U14 or U16 or whatever age. It doesn't really matter, but just saying, hey, coach, you remember what a good time we had doing this or that? Or, you were on me about that, but you also made sure that school was important and those sort of things. So yeah, it gave me a good passion. It's funny you mentioned the Women's Pro League. I interviewed with them for a coach, and I wanted it to be coach and GM, and I wanted to be in Minnesota because I wanted to be able to drive from Denver, which is our home. But so I didn't get it. But Natalie Darwitz is really a good hockey person. USA Hockey, like, won some. She's been an Olympian 3 times, and she's a good fit for that area. She knows the area. She lives there. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely something I still interested. I had unbelievable with coaching the women's national team. Was a phenomenal experience. They're great people. They want to listen. There's no eye rolling. The girls are totally different than the boys in that. Like, they want to be coached up, and they want honesty. And it really, to be honest with you, it helped my coaching because I remember my first camp where we have to cut players and get to our final 23 for I think it was a 4 Nations tournament at the time. So, you bring in 60, 70 players for camp, and then you're down to your 40, and now you got to go down to 25. So you're releasing a lot of players. But a guy who I was coaching with was like, well, the girls are going to want to know why when you cut them, basically. And I was like, What do you mean they're going to want to know why? Like the boys, we like, hey, you made it, you didn't. And they're like, okay, work harder next time. Like that was it. But whereas the girls, they wanted feedback. Like they wanted, and they wanted you to be honest. You know what I mean? They would know if you were BSing them, and they were great. I mean, they could take it. It wasn't a personal thing. They would just be like, hey, what can I do better to give myself a better chance to make it next time? And I had to have answers like ready to go. So it wasn't, I couldn't falter, or else again, it would look like that we made maybe the wrong decision. So it definitely helped me with my communication skills and all that. And which I think that's with, boys or girls players today. If you can communicate with them well, let them know what you're expecting from them, their expectations every day, how they're going to be treated as people, as not just athletes who you need to score goals or stop goals every night. Like, I think that's, kids, the way they're raised now and just the way they think, they're looking for feedback. So it would definitely help me.
I think you're exactly right. And I think that's even at the NHL level now.
100%.
I think they need it, they want it, they have to have it. And even be brutally honest with me. I need to know,
right.
where I stand here. Did you have any coaches that fit that bill when you were playing? Because there were definitely some who were pretty obstinate, and they didn't even they'd send the assistants to. Yeah. No,
I had way more of that, of the other side of just like assistant coach comes and sees you, or assistant GM calls you and says, hey, you just got traded, or, those sort of things. But, it wasn't that they weren't good people. I think that was just the way it was then. Like there weren't the communication and the instant feedback that now, players get from, my son plays his junior game. He's playing right now. He'll be watching his game later this afternoon. He'll be watching his shifts. He'll be looking at, could I do this better? Could I do that better? Then tomorrow when he goes to practice, he's expecting one of his coaches to say, hey, you did this well. You need to be better at this. And, he's that's his expectation now. So it's just the way players are.
It's kind of astounding to me that the Caps were kind of at the forefront of. They were the first team to have a goalie coach, Warren Strelo, back in the 80s. But it's only just this year that they've hired a full-time, dedicated skills coach.
Yep.
You got teams now with skating coaches, obviously nutrition, psychology. There's so many things that teams are paying attention to. And I mean, I guess it's just because in a salary cap world, there's just so much parity. There's so little difference between teams anymore that any advantage you can find, you got to try to make it work for you.
Yeah, no question. I mean, I think that's there's so many. I've got a lot of my peers now are development coaches or skills coaches, and it's definitely important. To me, it's just amazing how skilled all the kids are. Like, I mean, when you watch a USHL team, how they shoot the puck, how they handle the puck, I think just skills are off the chart. I think one thing that kind of stuck with me a couple of years ago when I was actually talking with Ole about different stuff he's done for the organization, one of them was, teaching kids to be pros. I remember when he told me that, and I was like, that's really a good thing. Like someone who's been there, who understands the you're in, you're out, the pressure of I played 12 minutes, then I played 16, then I played 10. Like, how do you handle those sort of things? So to me, having people like that have played and that have, they're good people, they're respected by the player, but they also treat them with respect. It's an important thing for all organizations. I know a lot of teams are adding those pieces as well. So, yeah, it's amazing. All the skating coaches, skills coaches, goalie. I mean, goalie coach to me is a normal thing. He's a coach. Obviously, you need your goalies. We had Dave, and he was the Ole whisperer.
One of my favorite guys.
Yeah. So, I don't know how he took Godzilla from exploding to, okay, calm down, focus in, and do your job. So,
and I mean, Ole's got a lot of cachet doing the job that he did. He can point to his own career and say, this is what can happen if you stick with it. But even your own situation, going from essentially the campus of Bowling Green to a city like Baltimore, and you're on your own now, and you got lots of free time, and how do you handle that? And how do you deal with that? And I mean, that's 30 years ago. It's changed a lot since then. What was that transition like for you without having a guy like Ole or anybody?
Yeah, it was just different. I mean, that first year we were, like I said, we had 14 guys, and I think I was maybe a little more mature than some of the 19-year-olds that we had coming from junior, because I had already been at college. I'd basically been out of the house for 4 years, so I knew how to do my own laundry. I knew I had to eat. I had to cook a little bit. I had to do those sort of things. So I wasn't living with a billet. Like, to me, that's an area where, like, a junior kid has never had to make his own meals or never had to, do that. Whereas, I had 1 year of junior where I billeted, but then I went to college for 3 years. So there was, they were like, hey, take care of your business and make sure you're on time and be ready to go every day. So it was. For me, I think that helped me being away at college, whereas sometimes junior players, I think, struggle with that because they've always had a billet or somebody. But yeah, it just, I don't know. It's like you said, there's enough competition out there, and so it's so hard. Like, for me, I kind of quickly realized, okay, I can't make this harder on myself by not eating right or staying out too late or, now video games were kind of just coming in, but I wasn't a huge gamer, so I was like, I'm not going to stay up till 2 a.m. doing that. But so, yeah, it was definitely, I don't know. It just kind of a maturity level. I guess my parents taught me to say, be respectful, take care of yourself, and, be ready to do your job.
Last thing before we let you go, got to ask you about the '98 Cup final run. Obviously, I think my memory of it was that again, I think by then they had Phil Housley and Jeff Brown was here. I think you were playing mostly wing when you were in the lineup, but I do remember in that Boston series you hopping off the bench and scoring I think it was your first playoff goal.
I think so.
Just cranked one.
Yep,
and
by
Byron Defoe,
exactly.
So
my buddy Bizey.
What do you remember about that run? It was a lot of fun, especially the night that you guys landed after winning in Buffalo.
Yeah, it was unreal. I mean, just to see the excitement to be going further than any team had ever gone, for the Caps, and just the group we had. We had a fun group. Like I said, we brought in some other pieces that were older guys, but they were good guys. And, the Etsatikanens and the Jeff Browns and, Howie was here. And we had, it was just a good group, I think, where everybody was, pulling the right direction at the right time. Obviously, Ole was outstanding. You have to have it.
That Brian Bellows edition was good
BB,
too.
Yeah, BB was here. So, yeah, no, it was definitely a fun. But it seemed like a blur because actually that was when – my oldest son was born April 11th, and I think our season ended maybe like the 14th, and then we started playoffs. So I had a newborn at home, trying to like deal with all those stresses and play, and I was in and out of the lineup a little bit, and and a 2-month run. So it was a whirlwind. I probably didn't get near the sleep I probably should have, but it was so much excitement and so much stuff going on, on the ice, off the ice, everywhere. It was pretty crazy.
My son had the good sense to be born between the Ottawa and the Buffalo series there, so I didn't miss any games. But thanks so much to Ken Klee for spending some time with us today here on this edition of Break the Ice. Great to see you again after all these years, and all the best to you and your family going forward.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Rob.
Superfood Performance Nutrition fuels the Washington Capitals players and staff on and off the ice. Each bite is energy-packed, highly nutritious, and engineered to boost recovery time. When they're not feeding pro athletes, Superfood is bringing the same high-quality nutrition to offices nationwide through their flagship corporate meal program, Simply Lunch. So if you have a high-performance team that needs fueling, check out mysuperfd.com for more information.